This has often been the biggest struggle that I have come to deal with over the last few years of trying to pursue things that are meaningful to me. It's trying to figure out, well, why is it that no matter how hard I seem to try, no matter how hard I want this said outcome, why is it that I just simply don't feel like doing it? Now, this doesn't happen to me necessarily every day, but it's crept up a little bit more. And sometimes, I do have days where effectively I've just written it off entirely and I've done pretty much little to no work at all. And I don't necessarily think that this is something that you can solve. I don't necessarily think that this is something which you can prevent entirely. But I do think there are a few reasons for this. I think a lot of this can come down to things around dopamine, things around your energy and your focus. I know for me, when I was spending tons of time, you know, just overstimulating myself in the morning or even early afternoon, afterwards, when I tried to, go and get work done, it just simply wasn't happening. Right? It just wasn't. And I noticed for myself, and even now, the energy I have in the beginning of the day is so much different to the later of the day. Like, for example, at the moment, I'm batch recording all my videos. In complete honesty, I'm recording about 12 videos in one sitting. I would not be able to do this later in the afternoon, and I would not be able to do this in the evening. At the time of recording, it's about 10:15 in the morning. I wouldn't be able to do this later on. And again, there is the thought of, well, why is that? And I at least know for me that, look, well, I feel like I'm at my sharpest in the morning. I feel like I can tackle the more difficult tasks in the morning, and that's more ideal. So that's the first thing. I feel like the first thing is knowing when you believe you can get, better quality work done. If that's you for the morning, then make sure that you can at least dedicate some level of time to doing that thing in the morning, right? Just understand, I guess, where your energy is. The second thing I would say is, yeah, I think sometimes it can be around things like overstimulation. I think obviously if you're overstimulating yourself with a lot of stuff, that can affect that dopamine baseline, and that can effectively make things that perhaps were quite interesting to you almost become a bit of a chore. I know that's been the case for me, and it's not ideal. It's not ideal, and a lot of the times, sometimes it just pops up and it's not great. So again, I'll loop back to it, but this is where I feel like just knowing where your energy and focus is effectively at its best is more so ideal. And this is why for me it's like, look, if I can get two solid, deep work sessions done in the morning or done or at least one done in the morning and maybe one that's done somewhat morning to afternoon, then it at least means that if I do nothing else today, perhaps if things come up, then I can at least know that I've done something quite meaningful, right? And perhaps I can do some lighter work later on, if I sort of feel like it. But again, I just think the biggest struggle is just simply, well, okay, well, what happened when you don't feel like it? And again, I think this is something which for me sometimes just pops up every now and then. I think sometimes when I'm being quite consistent, perhaps I've been actually working quite a lot. Sometimes that thought of, oh, well, it might be nice to go and, do this thing, to play this video game or whatever it might be. And honestly, like, I'm not going to say that I don't fall into the temptations. And honestly, sometimes I don't even regret it either. Sometimes it was just simply nice to go and do something which wasn't work. But I think the most important thing is being able to bounce back. That's the most important thing for me, at least, right? I'm not going to try and put on this idea for other people or even for myself that I am perfect. Obviously, it's in my best interest to try and stay as consistent as I can. But again, I think every now and then, look, if you've been working very consistently over time and you are feeling a bit sort of, exhausted, then yeah, maybe sometimes, it might not, as long as it's not going to kill your progress for the rest of the week, and as long as you're not going to keep falling back into a bad habit, I don't think it's the end of the world. But obviously, that's up to you to decide. But I think really the most important thing that I want to get across to you with this video is, if you are in a state where you just sort of don't feel like it, then perhaps a lot of the time it might just be around when you're best, focus and energy is coming up. And I think for a lot of people, it is, in the morning, if you can, I mean, the idea of, if you can win the morning, then, it just helps, right? Like, because if you can start your morning, perhaps you wake up early, you do a few things, or, you at least focus your energy on one specific task. If you can at least get that done, or at least at the very least make some level of progress on it, I think that just helped and that helped build momentum. But let me know your thoughts on this. Keep working hard, and I'll chat soon.